Good morning, I'm Alvin, and today we're walking through the news with the kind of calm curiosity that helps make sense of complicated moments. There's a thread through much of what's happening around the world right now, pressure points where politics, security, and human lives intersect. And I want to set the scene clearly and plainly, then linger where it matters most. Off the coast of Venezuela, a tense chapter is unfolding at sea. U.S. forces have moved to stop at least one oil tanker near Venezuelan waters as part of a broader campaign of maritime interdictions intended to disrupt illicit trafficking and sanctions evasion, and that move has prompted a formal protest from Caracas, sharpening an already fraught relationship between Washington and President Nicolas Maduro's government. That sentence contains a lot. Oil isn't just about energy. In Venezuela, it's the lifeblood of state revenue and the backdrop to political survival. When naval interdictions interrupt tankers, they do more than reroute shipments. They send a geopolitical signal. For Maduro's government, which has long relied on shadowy shipping networks to keep crude flowing, seizures and interdictions are an acute economic squeeze. For the United States, they are a tool meant to enforce sanctions and choke off revenues that the administration says fuel illicit activity. The result is a standoff on the water with very real consequences for diplomacy and for people whose livelihoods are linked to those exports. Turning to Central Africa, the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing a renewed surge of violence that's unspooling a humanitarian crisis. The UN Security Council has just renewed the DRC peacekeeping mission amid new offensives by the M23 rebel group, but the fighting has already driven waves of displacement and dramatically increased humanitarian needs in the region. This is one of those conflicts that unfolds far from most headlines, but with devastating local impact. Communities uprooted, markets disrupted, clinics overwhelmed. Peacekeepers can provide protection and a measure of stability, yet their presence also reminds us how fragile peace remains and how much remains to be done to address the root causes, from contested land and governance gaps to the complex network of armed groups and local grievances that fuel cycles of violence. In Southeast Asia, Indonesia is grappling with severe floods and landslides that have caused substantial loss of life and left many people missing as rescue teams press on with recovery work. Natural disasters in a country of thousands of islands are tragically frequent, and each event is compounded by climate pressures, challenging terrain, and population density in vulnerable areas. The human story in these moments is urgent and immediate. Families searching for loved ones, communities trying to rebuild, and first responders stretched thin. The rising death toll underscores the need for rapid humanitarian support and for longer-term investment in disaster preparedness and resilient infrastructure. Back in South Asia, Bangladesh is navigating a tense wave of political unrest after the killing of a prominent protest leader, a development that has spilled into nationwide unrest, arrests, and violent incidents that include attacks on political figures and crimes targeting communities. When a single violent act catalyzes broader unrest, it both reflects and intensifies pre-existing fissures in society. The immediate security response, arrests and crackdowns, can stabilize streets in the short term, but it rarely solves the underlying political grievances that brought people into the streets in the first place. Watch for how political leaders, civil society, and the judiciary respond in the coming days. Those responses will help determine whether tensions ease or escalate. Closer to Johannesburg, South Africa experienced another tragic episode of gun violence when a mass shooting outside the city killed and injured multiple people, part of a string of fatal attacks that have renewed domestic concerns about public safety. Gun violence in many places is not merely criminal statistics, it's a social wound that shapes daily life and public confidence. Events like this prompt debates about policing, social supports, and the proliferation of weapons, debates that can and should be rooted in data and in the lived experiences of communities affected by crime. Across Latin America, courts and political processes are continuing to shape national politics, with legal moves involving former leaders and high-profile criminal cases that remain in the headlines. From prosecutions to political maneuvers, these developments are more than legal footnotes. They contribute to the rhythm of public life and the way citizens understand accountability and the rule of law. In democracies, these moments often provoke strong emotions and can reshape political alliances, so they're important barometers of political health in the region. Beyond these country stories, there are alarming signals from humanitarian agencies working in multiple conflict zones. The UN and aid organizations have issued warnings after a string of incidents, including detentions of UN staff in Yemen, attacks on peacekeepers in Sudan, and killings of UN personnel in South Sudan, that are complicating relief efforts and heightening international concern. When those who deliver aid are targeted, the result is not only a tragic loss of life, but also diminished capacity to reach populations in desperate need. Humanitarian space is fragile, and these incidents make it harder for agencies to operate, which in turn increases the suffering of civilians caught in these conflicts. If there's a through line across these stories, it's this: geopolitical decisions, armed conflict, natural disasters, and domestic instability all ripple outward in ways that are both immediate and long-term. A tanker seized at sea affects economies and diplomacy. A rebel offensive uproots families and strains peacekeeping mandates. Floods take lives today and expose vulnerabilities tomorrow. Political violence can recalibrate national politics for years. Behind each item are people, leaders making choices, civilians coping with loss, responders trying to help. If you want more on any of these items, I can expand any one of them with recent developments, or I can tailor a regional briefing for Latin America, Africa, or Asia so you get the context most useful to you. I can also pull together original reporting sources if you want to read the primary coverage yourself. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Check the description for more information and links to the reports and briefings I referenced, and share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear which story you want us to explore next and what angles matter to you. Thanks for listening. I'll be back soon with another update.